ever get that feeling like someone somewhere is pulling the strings?
It's funny you should say that.
Really?
Yeah. That whole pulling the strings thing, it's a huge anxiety in these films we're talking about today. Like, our lives aren't totally our own, which, I mean, who hasn't felt that way, right?
It's true. Okay, so get this. Today's deep dive is all about those 90s movies about simulated realities, Dark City, The Truman Show, that kind of vibe. And we're looking at some film analysis essays that found this really wild link between that fear, the whole digital age blowing up, and this ancient idea called Gnosticism.
And Gnosticism basically says that this whole material world, it's an illusion, like a prison for your spirit.
Okay, well, hold up a sec. So, like, The Matrix.
Exactly. Think Neo taking that red pill. It's a super simplified version of a Gnostic awakening.
Mind blown. But how does that fit in with something like Dark City? That neo-noir film. Super dark. Reality literally changes every night.
Right. So the essay on that one makes a big deal about how Dark City borrows a ton from German expressionism, and not just visually, with like the architecture and the shadows.
Yeah, you get that feeling like something's just off.
Exactly. And just like Germany after World War I, they were dealing with all this fear about being controlled and manipulated, right? Dark City taps into that same fear that some unseen force is messing with our reality.
You know what? I never even thought of it like that, especially with those creepy pale aliens messing with everyone's memories.
Totally. The film treats memories like physical things, almost, which kind of lines up with Gnosticism, right? Like the material world is flawed, corrupted.
And here I was thinking it was just a cool sci-fi flick.
There's always more to uncover. And it gets even wilder. One essay points out that Kiefer Sutherland's character, the bad guy he's named after this guy, Daniel Schreiber.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, dude. Schreiber was a judge back in the 1800s, and he wrote a bunch about having paranoid schizophrenia. Makes Sutherland's over-the-top acting take on a whole new meaning, doesn't it?
Whoa, so it's like Dark City is hitting us with all these anxieties about losing control, about what's real and what's not. It's got those historical vibes from German expressionism, the philosophy of Gnosticism, and then this modern anxiety represented by, like, Schreiber's mental state.
Right. It's a lot to unpack.
No kidding. It's not just some simple fake world story anymore. It's deeper. Like, it's making us think about how easy it is for someone to mess with what we think is real.
It makes you think, huh?
Definitely. Which actually, that's a perfect way to bring up The Truman Show. Because talk about manipulation, right?
Totally. And what's so interesting about that movie is that it takes that same constructed reality idea, but doesn't make it this big, dark, scary thing like Dark City does. Like, at first, Truman's life seems kind of nice, you know?
It's almost wholesome until it's not.
Right.
And you could say that when Truman realizes his whole life is a TV show, that's like his big Gnostic awakening. He's trying to break free from this fake world he's stuck in. But then the movie takes this whole other turn because Truman doesn't disappear into solitude or anything. He becomes this massive star. Everyone is watching him.
It's true. And that's what I think is so clever about the film. It takes that Gnostic idea of finding freedom and kind of flips it. Like, if everyone is always watching you, are you really free?
Now that is deep.
Right. Makes you think.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, about finding that escape. That's what we all want, right? To be free from all the expectations, the daily grind, those stories we tell ourselves about who we are.
It's so true. And the essay really nails it when it talks about how both films, even though they're totally different, they both tap into that very human need to be real, authentic. In Dark City, it's all about taking back your memories, like who you are at your core. And in The Truman Show, he's breaking free from this fake world, stepping into the unknown.
Yeah.
Even though that unknown, it's not exactly freedom either, is it?
And that's what gets me. The essay doesn't try to sugarcoat it. Both films, they celebrate those characters rebelling, but we're still left with this, like, unsettled feeling.
Oh, 100%. Like, okay, Truman sails off into the sunset. But then what? What happens next? We don't know.
Exactly.
And that's where the whole late 90s thing comes back in. The essays make this connection between those anxieties about control, about illusions, and the internet.
Yeah.
Which makes sense when you think about it.
Oh, totally. It was like the internet was brand new and we were all just figuring it out as we went.
Right. Nobody really knew what they were doing.
It was exciting, but at the same time, it's like, are we creating these online versions of ourselves? Isn't that real? It's like we stepped into this huge experiment and nobody knew how it was going to end.
Exactly. And those Gnostic ideas, suddenly, they're not just ancient history anymore. They're relevant. Like, are we just living in another simulation now? Another layer of the illusion?
Whoa. Trippy.
Right. It's a head trip. And if our online selves are just as real as our offline selves, then what does that mean for who we are? Are we all just performing for some invisible audience, hoping for likes and shares?
It's true, though. We're all guilty of it.
100%. The films don't give us any easy answers, and neither do the essays, but they definitely make us think. They're like, hey, maybe pay attention to the things you're watching, the technology you're using. All that stuff shapes how we see the world, even ourselves.
It's like we're living in a digital dark city, information overload, algorithms watching our every move. So how do we even start to reclaim that Gnostic spark, that need for truth, for something real?
Man, that's the million-dollar question. But I think step one is just realizing what we're up against, being aware of how our reality, whether it's online or offline, is being built around us every day.
It's like we need to go back to school, right? Media Literacy 101, but with a philosophy professor as our guide.
Huh. Right. Although, I don't know about ditching all tech and living off the grid, tempting as it sometimes feels.
Yeah. No thanks. I like my Wi-Fi.
Me too. But I think that's the point, isn't it? The essays aren't saying these films are like warnings about the dangers of technology or anything. It's more like they're making us think about how we experience the world.
So it's okay to enjoy the ride, even if it is a construct.
Exactly. Reality might be a mix of what's actually out there and how our brains interpret it. But hey, it's the only one we've got.
And maybe that's the real takeaway here. That Gnostic revelation everyone's looking for. It's not about escaping this world for something better, but finding those moments of truth right here, right now.
Yes. And honestly, those moments, they're everywhere. The connections we make, the stories we share, the art we create. It's about owning our experiences, even when it feels like we're being pulled in a million different directions.
So the next time you're 3 hours deep in TikTok or feeling like your life is one big reality show, just remember Truman staring at that fake sky, or John Murdoch trying to find his memories in that messed up city.
It's all connected.
It is.
Yeah.
And maybe ask yourself, what truths am I holding on to? What illusions am I ready to let go of?
That's what it's all about.
Some heavy stuff to ponder. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. See you all next time.